Welcome to Two Step Past, my weekly Yu-Gi-Oh podcast where we talk all things Yu-Gi-Oh! This week we're talking to professional player Eva. She's an amazing duelist over on Twitch. She plays Labyrinth competitively and is just on her way to Nats this week. I spoke to her today about how she got into the game and moved from being a teacher to being a high-profile Yu-Gi-Oh! Player.
So I first kind of started with Yu-Gi-Oh! When I was younger. I was just like, I watched the show, I would get some of the cards. I built my first kind of deck like in around 2010, 2011. I didn't have a whole lot of money in high school. My family didn't really either. So I was watching 5Ds at the time. And I really loved Crow. And
Mr. Blackwing himself, everyone's fan favorite.
Exactly. And so I basically started stealing packs from a grocery store when I was like a teenager. And so I just like kind of cobbled together a Blackwing deck. But I never played like competitively or anything like that. Like I just kind of had the deck at that point. But I started getting into competitive play. I was kind of gaining some more interest in it a few years ago. And I'm a teacher. And I had a student one day who had brought in a couple of decks into school, just randomly.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, Miss P, and like shows me the decks. And I was like, hey, gotta put those away. And then I was like, you know, today's Thursday. At the end of the day on Friday, if you finish all your work and I check it over and it's good, for the last half hour of class, play a duel with you. And he's like,
Sounds
no
like
way.
a good deal to me.
I was like, wait, I haven't played this in like a decade, but you know, let's give it a shot. So at the end of the day, he turns in his work. It's the best work he's ever done for me. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we get out one of those mats that you get from like a structure deck, one of the
like the
paper mats.
Yeah.
We do Blue Eyes versus Dark Magician. And I was like, I forgot how fun this is. So then I went to a locals and just kind of haven't stopped playing since. And that was a little over 2 years ago.
So you came back after those structure deck duels. What deck did you what was the first deck you jumped into after coming back into the game? Obviously Blackwing was your first love, but...
Yeah, so I got like 3 of the like Showdown structure decks.
Good one to pick up.
So I started building Shadal. But the first deck I ever brought to locals was like Lunalight OTK.
That's amazing.
But the thing is, like, this was when Tiger was still banned too, and so it was just bad. It was real bad. But it was what I had at the time because the Lunalight cards at that point were so cheap.
They've kind of gone up now, haven't they?
Yeah, a little bit. They went a little bit up after like Luna Tier was popular in sort of POT format. And then people still kind of mess with, the Luna cards to this day just because there's some, in tier limit and stuff, like having, the Lunalight perfume is really powerful, so.
I love that whenever Lunalight is in a topping list, all the Lunalight cards spike, despite the fact that those topping decks play maybe like 1 or 2 of them, and none of them play Lunalight Fusion. And Lunalight Fusion always spikes, despite the fact that not one of the top meta players are ever playing any of the actual Fusion stuff in.
Of course not. No, like, yeah, there'll be, Kaleido Chick, Yellow Martin, and Tiger in a list, and then you just see, like, a buyout for, I don't know, the butterfly. Like, it's just random. It's absolutely random.
So you moved from stealing your way into the game, by force, then coming back in as a teacher later on. You had your lovely Lunalights. What transitioned you from dabbling to getting a bit more professional with it? Your decks have come a long way since then, and you're content creating now as well. Where did you go from teacher who's dabbling to excellent streamer?
Well, I sort of took that summer to just like learn the game more and play more. So I got a virtual world deck because this was after VFD got banned. And so the deck was like, it's like 50 cents, or not 50 cents, it was like $50 for like a core for VW, you know, some staples and everything like that. So I just started to like play that more. I started to just kind of theorize more about the game and tried to work on my own builds and stuff. The first deck I ever like built and like took the locals and won with, that I felt like it was something I really tried to do myself, was a Phantom Knights deck. It was like a 50 card Phantom Knights, Isolde, Dragoon deck, and so I was so I felt like really proud of that, and I wanted to just like start doing more with the game. I wanted to interact with the game more and not just be like some person on Twitter who, like, you know, I love that too.
But there are a lot of people on Twitter who have really good stuff to say about Yu-Gi-Oh, but then they aren't taking that step and putting themselves out there as much, and you wanted to get more than just the Twitter side of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I really wanted to like dive more into being a really competitive player, because like, yeah, I make funny posts sometimes and like people think I have like interesting opinions on the game, but I was like, I really want to show that I can be a strong competitive player. And so like that's kind of what I've taken this year to do. Like one of my goals at the start of 2023 was that I wanted to have an invite to Nats. And it took me quite a while. And to get to that point, I played I played on the bubble in 5 of the last 6 regionals I was at before I finally got my top. And so it was just like, it was just this constant like bashing my head against the wall of being like so close, where I'd have a winning, like I'd have a record that could potentially get the invite, but then tiebreakers would lose me it, or I had a winning record going into the final round and I'd lose a heartbreaker, you know. So, and yeah, and that happened 5 out of 6 times in my regionals before I finally got it. So
when is this the upcoming Nats next one, or is this the one? Brilliant. So when is Nats that you're going to be going to?
Next week. So
I didn't realize it was that close. Where is it this year? This Nats?
It's Raleigh, North Carolina.
Brilliant. Is that a far trip for you? Is that going to be a big deal, or is it quite accessible?
It's a plane ride for me. So if I didn't take a plane, it'd be like a 12-hour drive. So
that gets you across the entirety of my country.
Yeah, US be big, you know.
Yeah, it's weird. Me and my partner were in a long distance relationship, and that was like halfway across the country, but that was still only a 3-hour train. You know what I mean? Like, and I hear about Americans talking, and it's like, wow, okay, I guess maybe we had it pretty alright. For, you know, kid off the street, they love their anime, they're buying their first structure deck. What do you have to do? How many tops do you have to get? How well do you have to play? How do you go from new at locals to getting a Nats invite? So how many events do you have to win? Or is it just one that you have to do significantly well? And what's the numbers game there?
Yeah, so you have to like basically top a regional event. Like, so you have to top a regional event, or top a YCS, top a regional flight at a YCS, things of that nature. So yeah, so it's like, so if I bubble 5 events in a row, that still won't get me the invite, even though it's like consistent results. It is like, for the like regional that I was playing in, it was 125 players, and it was like the top 16 got invites.
So all of the top 16 get invites. It's not like you get into the top 16 and you might get an invite. If you get that top 16, you're getting an invite for sure.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how many people are playing. It depends on how many people are playing in said, you know, event. But they tend to be typically like the top 10% of players that get an invite from it. So like, you know, but they usually do like top 8, top 16, top 24, and just kind of multiples of 8. So if you're at a 600-person event, it's probably going to be the top 64 that get invites.
And that's at regionals. Does it happen at YCSs as well, or is it just regionals?
Yeah, so it happens at YCSs as well, and they have regional flights, basically, where it's usually like 16 people that play in these, and then the person who gets first in that gets an invite to Nats from that as well.
And what about Worlds? Do you have to win a Nats to get to Worlds? How does that work?
Yeah, so for that, you have to be able to get to Worlds, you have to win Nats from your region. So the winner of North American Nats is going to be able to compete in Worlds. I think there was just a Worlds playoff in Europe for like all the different countries. So I think it was like the top 3 from that, I think, went on to Worlds or something like that. I didn't see all the players that made it, but shoutouts to Dinkabui for his invite to Worlds. So
brilliant. What position did you finish in the Nats where you got your not the Nats, the regional where you got your Nats invite?
I got 9th.
9th, that's really good. And how many players was that out of again?
125. So
not bad at all. And you were on Labyrinth.
Yes.
When did you become Labyrinth pilled? What drew you to Labyrinth other than the wonderful artwork and awesome style?
So I started playing Labyrinth online a couple weeks before Tactical Masters was released, when the deck first came out. So before that, I was playing Marincess, which is still one of my favorite decks. I love playing Marincess too. But I started playing Labyrinth, so I started playing it online, and I was like, I love this deck, and so I got it as soon as Tactical Masters came out. I was like, I'm getting this whole core, and we're doing this. And so I played it from that point forward. I brought it to my first YCS, which was YCS Minneapolis, or YCS Niagara, excuse me, where I played it. I played it in the tournament, and this was before Lady Labyrinth. This was before Big Welcome Labyrinth. So we're talking like a day 1 Labyrinth deck.
It's been a while. How good was Labyrinth before Lady and Big? Because we've had Big and Lady for ages now. I can't remember how good it was before then.
Bad. It was not.
Bad?
It was
not, actually bad.
It was like, I mean, how it is in Master Duel now is basically like, like how it is in Master Duel now is pretty similar, because it was like, day 1, first, maiden voyage of Labyrinth versus Bright and the first incarnations of Tier. So it's like you have Labyrinth without Lady and Big Welcome, and you're going up against like Luna Light Tier. You're going against Danger Tier. You're going against Runic Sprite, and you're like,
yeah,
this ain't happening. This just ain't happening.
How significant was the jump? So I always find this amazing, and I think modern Yu-Gi-Oh has really shown to me how some archetypes, they just need like 1 or 2 cards to really turn them on their head. How big was the impact from Big Welcome and Lady?
So Lady at first was like, it was better. It was definitely better. But kind of the problem was, the problem with it was like I was playing the furniture builds like a while ago, but the big problem was that your only really good sets were the Welcome Trap, which is basically like Sanguine in a way, and the Field Spell. The other cards just weren't good. Barrage, Fair Welcome is like, I played as a 1-of, but it's more so just because it's searchable. Terrible activation requirements, and like it's not good. But Lady definitely helped with it. But really the sea change became Big Welcome, because you had kind of this perfect storm of Big Welcome Labyrinth coming out in Photon Hypernova. So you had another great trap. I mean, it's the best, it's an incredible card that, like, it does so much for the deck, but you had this storm of that card being introduced, and then the tier cards being hit, and the Ishizus. Because, like, the best way to play Labyrinth is to play this very, grindy game where you're recurring your Welcome Labyrinth and your furniture from the graveyard, and you're able to use your Big Welcome activation to bounce cards from the grave as well. But if you're playing that into the Ishizus, you weren't getting any of that sort of resource.
They're always going to get shuffled back, and you're never going to get to do anything with them.
Exactly. It was really difficult to do that. But like, as soon as Photon was released, the only window we had where Photon Hypernova was legal, and we also had the Shizu card still legal, was Lyon format, YCS Lyon. And so it was like, after that, that's when you started seeing Labyrinth getting all these tops with a variety of different builds. You have floodgates, you have furniture. So yeah.
What do you think there are, like, I've seen a lot of people talking about viruses recently. How do you feel about viruses? And not just maybe in Labyrinth, but the fact that they are around. They're never fun, particularly, but if everyone's using them, I suppose you have to think about them at least.
Yeah, so Eradicator is the card that's been around for, 15 years at this point. It is jumped in and out of being a problem card. I do think that it is an extremely powerful card. It, like, and Labyrinth is the best deck at enabling it, for certain. And that card and I are kind of tied by the black thread of fate at this point. Like, I make a habit of resolving that card a lot. But,
if I played any deck that could, I would be resolving that card every day. Like,
yep, it's very powerful. But I think in some capacities, I see it as something of a necessary evil for how the game currently is, because of cards like Evenly Matched, like Harpy's Feather Duster, like Lightning Storm. You need cards that are going to be able to answer those quickly, and having like a searchable normal trap that can do this, that can be set and activated that turn because of just how strong the Labyrinth engine is. It's really important for the deck. So, like, my thing is, if you ban Evenly Matched, you can ban Eradicator, and I have absolutely no problem with that. Because then, if you ban Evenly Matched, the only, the only cards that are getting rid of your back row without destroying, are going to be, like, in terms of, like, spell card removal, are going to be Hey Trunade and Cosmic Cyclone. And with Hey Trunade, it puts all of them back in your hand, so it's not the end of the world. And with Cosmic Cyclone, it's a 1-for-1. But if you ban Evenly, then we don't just have to be like side decking Judgment. We can start doing plays like, siding Lord of the Heavenly Prison or Starlight Road, because it would be so much more focused on destruction. Because you're not gonna catch me dead, having a Starlight Road on my board, and then my opponent attempts to leave main phase.
It's gonna be evenly. Like, if anything's getting rid of your stuff, it's gonna be evenly.
Right.
Maybe they should unban heavy, ban evenly, and then let people run Starlight Road if they really want to avoid it.
If they're focusing more on destruction is the way that you get rid of traps, like, I'm not too angry about that, we'll say. But I think you kind of have to just address that issue, because I'm not someone who really likes floodgates. You could ban Rivalry Goes in, Tikaboo, whatever you want tomorrow. I'd be happy with it because I hate those cards. Skill Drain too.
Yeah.
But you have to answer some of the, like, I think, egregious back row hate at times.
Yeah, I think Konami they've certainly been trying. I can't pretend they have been trying. I feel like the issue is that they hit the power, but then they don't hit the things that we use to hit the power, or they hit the answers to the most dangerous cards, but they don't ban the most dangerous cards. They unban Skill Drain, which is ridiculous. Like, it's just not fun. And yeah, some decks really like Skill Drain, but also it's not fun Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, and I guess that is the issue with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that what's the definition of fun? Is your definition of fun winning only? Is your definition of fun having a nice even match between you rather than an evenly matched between you? Is your definition of fun? And we will have days where I want to play a deck where I have everything. I want to play a deck where you can't do anything. I want to play a really nasty control deck. I want to lock all your options. I want to have I want to summon the Vanity's Fiend or whatever. You cannot special summon. You can, we will go through days like that where you want to be like, my fun is stopping you having fun. But I think the issue is if everybody's fun is stopping the other person having fun, then the game just dies, doesn't it? Because nobody wants to play it anymore.
Right. Yeah. And I think it kind of, when we have all these floodgates in the game, it kind of gives trap cards a bad name, where you have a lot of people who just say, oh, I hate trap cards. And if you ban a bunch of these, floodgates, then you're going to, while also hitting some back row removal, you're going to be able to have games where players can set a bunch of removal traps and have that be a more interactive game. And some may say that, oh, well, then you just have to go first with the trap deck and, you're losing. And it's like, if you're going second against Drytron and they're putting up Vanity's Fiend plus a counter trap, or they're putting up Vanity's Ruler, I believe, and a counter trap, like, is it that much different? I'm just saving you 10 minutes of your life, friend.
No, and I think Konami, it's weird, because for that, there was that big period of time where just traps were rubbish. Traps were bad. I think maybe until the printing of Imperm, traps were just bad for a good, 5 to 7 years in Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think they've done a really good job of printing some really fun traps. There's some really cool stuff like Ice Dragon's Prison, stuff like Imperm, stuff like Dharma Cannon, whatever it's called.
Yep.
There's traps
I'm wearing on my necklace right now, which is Dogmatica Punishment.
Dogmatica Punishment. I've literally built Dogmatica over the last 2 months. I don't know why I didn't even think of it. But yeah, there's traps that are worth running and that are good. But the problem is, why would I use them when I can run 3 Skill Drain, 3 Tickaboo, 3 Gozen Matches? Because they are better. They are better to run. In terms of long-term investment. Yeah, Ice Dragon's Prison gets rid of one nasty boss monster. However, Gozen is here forever, maybe, and locks them out of maybe half their deck, or maybe Tickaboo. So why would I use that when I could use that? If I'm waiting a turn to activate anyway, I'm going to go for the one that's best. I think it's always, traps are either disgustingly powerful or they're horrible and rubbish. There's we never get a chance to enjoy sort of a mid format for traps.
Yeah. But that's a little bit of what I think this format is shaping up to be a bit. Because it's a bit of a lower power format, removal traps have a decent place in it. It's less based around hand traps, so in current Labyrinth builds that I've been having success with, it's more focused on just monster removal and board breaking, which I enjoy a lot more, because that's kind of all I really want to do is just resolve removal traps, just resolving compulse and punishment and that kind of stuff. That's my happy place.
I love, and I think Labyrinth is in a similar place to Sky Striker. I love when an archetype comes out that means you can sort of dig up all those old favorites. So Sky Striker, obviously, it just needs spells in the grave. It doesn't need Sky Striker spells. So you can just go through all of your your favorite catalog and be like, well, I'm gonna run some mind controls. I'm going to run just spells, because I need spells in my graveyard. And obviously, in the most optimum builds, they have a proper build. But as just if you're playing Sky Striker casually, you have a reason to play them. And I think Labyrinth did a really good job of just being what's a normal trap? And in the same way, it's kind of like Trickstar, not Trickstar, Trap Trick on crack. In terms of Trap Trick is, let's find all the holes you've got. Any fun one, I love running the space time one, or I like running the, and it's just sort of find your favorite hole and you got it. But now Labyrinth has expanded that to normal trap. Yeah, that's right. Good with me.
Yeah, there are days where I just I joke that I will sometimes just go to bed reading the card database of all the normal traps in the game, but that is what I do sometimes, and that's why I've had cards like Magic Deflector in my side deck, where I've had...
Which one's Magic Deflector?
It is, it's a trap card that negates the effects of all spells except for normal spells on your opponent's side. So, I mean, it's not a bad one. It's just, Eradicator in a lot of senses is usually better. But Deflector does have its uses where it's if your opponent chains something, if they chain a quick play and then you can chain that to it, it will negate it and you don't have to lose a monster to use it. So it has its uses. One of the things I was doing a lot with Castira players was putting Ojama Trio down, which was very funny because, they can't special summon Fenrir, they can't special summon Unicorn, and they have to kind of make very awkward plays unless they have Birth in hand.
How do you feel about the format right now? You talked about it being lower power, you talked about the space for you to play, certainly as a Labyrinth player. A, in like your own opinion in terms of your being able to play, and B, maybe not just your own opinion, but how you feel about the community or what you've seen. How are you feeling about this format?
Yeah, so for me personally, like as a Labyrinth player, I like this format a lot. Like this, having it be more of a grindy format where, you know, decks are mostly taking like a few turns to kill. I really like that. I like formats where games take a bit of time. I think this format is both currently thought more positive, like has more positivity towards it than the previous one, and I think in Antiquity it's also going to be seen that way, just because like cards like Diablosis and Branded Expulsion were very frustrating for a lot of people to deal with. Whereas like, you know, now we're not getting, you know, the 3 or 5 zone locks from Diablosis, as well as like for Branded, they're if they want to go for Gimmick Puppet, it's not usually that they're able to do that turn 1 because bringing out Sanctifier takes like more investment.
And you can banish the Gimmick Puppet now, because Expulsion could summon from Banish, but Sanctifier can only summon from Grave. So there, you know, there's way. It's almost like Konami know what they're doing sometimes, isn't it? In terms of like the hits.
Yeah.
What would you, if you could do something to improve this format? What would it be? Would it be banning those Fenrirs that everyone's teching? Would it be unlimiting something? What would it be?
God, to fix this format. So I feel pretty good about this format, but I think that like the hit to Runic, where they hit Fountain to 2, wasn't really a very good hit because
kind of wasn't, you know, like, a hit, was it? Because they only ran 2 Fountain anyway, didn't they? A lot of them.
Yeah, most builds are only running 2 Fountain anyway, and so like my preferred hit for that would have been Hugin to 1, because then if you're ashing, you know, if you ash the Hugin or you imperm the Hugin, then like there's only a, you know, 33% chance that they drew the Fountain, right?
Yeah.
So it like puts them more on like gotta have it.
And if you cosmic the Fountain, you've done, like you finished it.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, because then you have to naturally draw it as well. So yeah, I think I would have preferred that hit. I think the sprite hit of starter to 2 really only hurt like the more pure and Melfi variants of it. I think if you wanted to actually hurt it as an engine, blue to 1 would have been the proper move, because, you know, right now, part of the, you know, like 2 of the best decks are going to be, you know, the Live Twin Runic Sprite and the Furhire Runic Sprite. And both of those kind of hinge on their sprite engine having access to 3 blue. And, you know, because they're mostly only playing 1 starter.
Yeah.
So I found those builds to be the more difficult ones to deal with under a lot of circumstances. So I think if you wanted to make sprite less splashable, that would have been the move, but it also would have hurt the pure deck quite a bit. So your mileage may vary, but generally I don't think this format is I don't know if I believe in bad formats, but I enjoy this format, and I think there isn't much that I would really do to change it. I would love to see Evenly Gone, of course, but I'm gonna say that until it's not around. So
yeah, I have behind me, I believe it's this one. Yes, no, that's the number collection. I have in this folder, I have the entire Yu-Gi-Oh ban list in this folder. If you
entire ban list?
I have the entire ban list in this folder. If you could release something from the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, what would you free from the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list?
That's so tough.
Would it be Delinquent Duo? Do we need that in the format?
I think Harp Horror is a very, I think, like, for my like safe bet that most people would agree with, Harp Horror, like it's been a few years. Harp Horror, I think, is fine to come back.
And it's in Master Duel and it's not doing much, is it? I think it's weird that Master Duel exists as this sort of weird entity where we can just be like, what if this got unbanned? And the answer is always, well, it's already unbanned in Master Duel and it ain't doing nothing. Like,
right. I really don't think that, like, you know, a non-targeting send that you're getting each turn with recursion, where you have to play like 4 bricks. I don't think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
No.
I think harp is fine to come back.
I think
As
they're
for-
locks. They lock you into. They lock you into dark? Do they lock you into Dark Machine as well? It's been a while since I've played Orcus.
If they lock you into darks, just the if you use the effect of Crescendo and Grave, it locks you into Dark Machines for the turn.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's not the most restrictive, but like I think it's fine. I think it would be fine if